Hey, welcome to Planetary Pennies, Astrology Overview and Look at the month ahead of October 2020. Before I start, some people have been telling me they're finding it difficult to find their particular sun sign, and they don't particularly want to read or listen to all the other sun signs, which I fully understand, unless of course you know your ascendant or your moon sign, and then you can also look at those for yourself. So my lovely tech guy Jerry has just given me a brief description so that I can explain to you how you find your particular sun sign. So if you look down here at the bottom of the video here, you should see a little arrow. I think at this point it's probably pointing upwards, but it has something written on it that says show more. Now what you have to do is you click on show more and a description box drops down, and then you will see like an index for all the signs. So you'll have, Leo, and it'll start with the overview for October plus Leo's astrology. So that way I'm hoping it'll be a lot easier for you to navigate around this channel. Okay, so with no further ado, and I really hope that helps to explain it, I will continue with October's overview. So we are now in Libra season. So, when the sun moves into Libra, it kind of focuses us much more on the relationship aspect of life. So that would be the relationship aspect of, for example, our one-to-one close friendships, our one-to-one intimate relationships with family, with more, our wider friend circle. I also think, because when I looked at the chart, and I'm going to go over that briefly in a minute, when I looked at the chart for October, there is actually a pretty strong emphasis, in spite of the sun being in Libra, there is an emphasis on relationships. And I think this is on a rather grander scale, because I think this is actually on an international scale. Relationships between countries, relationships within countries, between communities. My sense is, because we have Mars retrograde, and it will be for quite a while in Aries, and Mars is making this harsh, difficult aspect to the big boys, Saturn, Pluto and Jupiter in Capricorn, which is in the 7th house of this October chart that I've set up. And what that tells me is that I really feel governments and world leaders are going to really struggle with keeping people safe within the confines of lockdown, because I suspect there's going to be a real movement underneath, or underground if you like, of the masses, the populace, getting very frustrated with lockdown, getting very frustrated with the fact that they are being so damaged financially in their individual businesses. They are losing jobs, and so there is going to be, I think, a real surge towards this kind of unrest. And my sense is that as these planets, that is Pluto, Jupiter and Saturn, start to move forward again in Capricorn, because Pluto actually starts to move forward on it moves forward on the 4th of October. So we will then have these three big boys going direct in Capricorn. So that's Saturn, Pluto and Jupiter. Now remember, Jupiter expands, and Jupiter can expand negative stuff as well as positive stuff, because it's like Jupiter is kind of neutral. So what I want to say with this is that, Pluto is pushing us towards transforming the way we actually govern our planet. It's pushing countries to transform the way they administer their governmental duties. It's on such a broad scale. You see Saturn that is also direct now, because Saturn went direct at the end of September. You know, Saturn is about governments and order and law and restrictions and boundaries. And I really feel that there is going to be quite a tension throughout the month of October, because as we move towards the end of the year, when these planets, in a sense, meet up much more tightly, because Jupiter, and again, remember, it expands what it touches. That's great if you've got a winning lottery ticket. And maybe we'll get some of those this month, who knows? And let's hope I'll go and buy one. And it expands what's negative and what's dark as well. So, you know, we also have to remember that we're moving towards the US elections. And we've seen in other years how tense things get throughout the world as we observe what's happening on the United States stage in these kind of events that have to unfold. So what I'm saying on a more personal level is, be mindful of your close personal relationships. Be mindful of short tempers with each other. I notice, for example, on social media, one gets a lot of kind of attacking going on between people. You know, there's the pro-masks against the anti-masks. There's the pro-vaxxers against the anti-vaxxers. I mean, people, we've all got to try and live together in harmony. And at this point, does it matter on one level who's right and who's wrong? It's just that perhaps we have differences of opinion. And I think if we can respect each other's differences of opinion, as we all strive towards building a stronger future and somehow pulling together the dramatic change that this planet is kind of going through at the moment, if we go with that, because, you know, when you when a branch holds itself firm against the wind will snap it and break it. If it bends, then it can survive. And I think one of the underlying symbols for me about this month is that what we have to do is actually bend with that force of the wind. We've got to bend with the force of Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter moving towards their final kind of meeting in November, I think it is, when they finally all get together. The other thing I want to talk about before I move on to your individual signs is that we have a Mercury retrograde this month. Now, please don't fear Mercury retrograde. It can be a good thing, because it can give all of us, including the government, second chances to tweak things, to get things right this time. You know, as countries throughout the planet are beginning to see that they may have to enforce larger lockdowns again because of this kind of second wave that, I don't know whether the first wave ever went away, to be quite honest, but we have this kind of surge in virus cases. It feels like, hopefully, every single government throughout the world will use the vision of hindsight. I mean, we all know that 2020 is going to have that stigma on it forever of 2020 hindsight. And but you know, this Mercury retrograde is helping that. It's saying, look, we can see what we perhaps didn't get right last time. Let's try and actually get it right this time, because that way maybe we can save lives, we can save jobs, we can save businesses. So that's the positive of Mercury retrograde. The sort of the more downside of Mercury retrograde, and Mercury's going to be in Scorpio, and he goes then back into Libra, and he doesn't go direct till November the 3rd. So we've got, from the 14th of October, we've got this Mercury retrograde period. Yes, we can expect delays in travel, but I think we know why, and I think we're all more aware that if we are booking long distance travel or even short distance travel, it may be subject to change or cancellation. And I don't think we can just stop living our lives because of all these restrictions. I think we have to learn to adapt. And by adapting, I think respect everybody's own individual wishes within that. And respect each other, because this Libra emphasis on relationship, I do feel is super important for October. You know, this Mars square to Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter, you know, there's going to be a lot of kind of sparking off and fights and arguments, and it's just quite tricky. I just want to look at what Uranus is doing, because Uranus is retrograde, of course, in Taurus, and I do think because Taurus is all about money and investments, this retrograde Uranus is going to see a little bit more instability again in the financial world and the sort of the economic climate, which is not what any of us want to hear. But I think there's a lot of nervousness around because of, you know, the fact that we're coming into winter in the Northern Hemisphere, and we are going to go through quite a challenging time. Now, I have talked a lot about October in this overview, but I just feel it's important to get these points across. Your individual sun signs will probably not be quite as long, but they will hopefully have the more direct information that you require to navigate your way through October. So before you go on to that, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning into my channel, watching my videos, and subscribing to my channel. If you've not subscribed, I'd be super happy if you could. That would be fantastic. And the likes and shares are hugely, hugely appreciated. And also, if you would like to book a personal one-to-one session with me for astrology or life coaching, or you'll probably find it's a combination of both, in fact, then my website address is in the description box underneath the video. I think it's also just written here in the bottom of the video. So that's all I want to say for now. And so until next month, enjoy your October horoscopes. Thank you. Hey Gemini, welcome to your October astrology for the Sun in Gemini or for the Ascendant in Gemini. And if you happen to know that your Moon is in Gemini, why don't you check that out too? Okay, so we start the month on the 1st, because it does start on the 1st, but we have an Aries full moon on the 1st, and it's in your 11th house of hopes and wishes. Now, this full moon is actually conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer. Are there some ideas or dreams that you've had to kind of, I don't know, put aside, and you feel quite unhappy that you've not been able to initiate these things? Well, I'm just wondering if this full moon is actually going to give you a chance to go back and look at some of these ideas and dreams that you've got and see whether you could actually do something about them, Gemini. You know, Gemini, remember, you're ruled by Mercury. You're a good communicator. And if you've had some innovative ideas of how things could sort of change in regard to maybe the work you do or your business, why don't you actually approach those that might be able to help you and talk about it? Because we've also got Pluto going direct in your 8th house, and that's Capricorn. And Pluto's going direct on the 4th of October. And remember, both Saturn and Jupiter are already direct in your 8th house. Now, the 8th house is the house of transformation. It can also be joint finances. It can be sexuality. It can also be it can be something that inheritance even, or using money that one has gained from maybe somebody else. Someone's sort of bequeathed you something. Now, Pluto going direct means things are going to now start speeding up for you in this area of your life. So if there's been finances that you've not perhaps been able to get your hands on, then I think Jupiter moving also towards Pluto, where he's actually going to conjunct Pluto a little bit later on, Jupiter expands. So I think this area of your life is actually going to go through some kind of transformation. And that could be to do with joint finances, but it could also be transformation of you in, I don't know, in a kind of a different understanding of life. Because, you know, the 8th house is actually a Scorpio house. It's ruled by Pluto. So even though Pluto's in Capricorn here in your chart, it's still his kind of domain. And I wonder if Pluto is trying to push you to kind of develop and understand things on an inner level that maybe you've not done before. But I'm going to come on to that a little bit later, because it also links in with what's going on in your 12th house. But I'll come to that in a minute, because I have to mention, first of all, that we do have Mercury retrograde this month. Please don't worry. It is not to be feared, because Mercury retrograde, and everyone goes, oh no, everything's going to get lost and delayed and everything's going to break and my computer will crash. No, it won't. Well, it might, but maybe that's for a good reason, because sometimes, you know, when things go wrong, it's actually so something can go right. You know, we don't always recognize these kind of ways, if you like, that the divine works, and the divine will put obstacles in our way, usually for very good reasons. If you miss that plane or don't catch that train, maybe there's a good reason for it. So you know what? Trust it. Mercury goes retrograde anyway on the 14th, and it's going retrograde in Scorpio, and it's going to go back into Libra. So Scorpio for you is your 6th house of health, and the 5th house, Libra, is all about fun and creativity and play. Well, that can be nice. Maybe there's going to be a second chance to actually have some fun, Gemini. But I think with regard to Mercury retrograde in your 6th house, this could be anything that's been delayed with health appointments, anything to do with doctor's appointments, hospital appointments. I think you'll see them actually put back on the agenda. Either they will be delayed again, but that's okay, or you will get some kind of indication of when it's going to be. And I think when Mercury gets back into your 5th house of fun, play, creativity, also love affairs, it can be, and it could be children and creative projects, then I think this is going to be a chance to actually just relax a bit. And, you know, sometimes we just have to do things for fun. And Gemini, you do like to play. You're mercurial. You're the messenger. You do like to chatter away. Perhaps this is about you having more fun with just sort of chatting and a bit of a rest, because it all gets terribly serious this year, doesn't it? Our 2020 kind of hindsight year has not been easy for any of us to navigate. And Mercury is retrograde until the 3rd of November. So if it's giving you a break from things, I'd just take it. So let's move on to the new moon, which is also in your 5th house of Libra. So this is also lovely, because I think this is going to give you an opportunity to start new things, new projects, new ideas you may have that could even make you some money. It could be, you know, just moving around in your consciousness somewhere. So listen to that, Gemini. And it could be new opportunities with to have a little bit of fun. And, you know, maybe there's been somebody that you've been romantically involved with, and that could see, you know, it moving on to another level, maybe, Gemini. So all nice stuff. But let's come on to the final full moon of this month. Yes, we have 2 full moons this month, Gemini. And the last one is on the 31st, Halloween in Taurus, your 12th house. So what's this about for you? Well, the 12th house is about, it can be where we feel quite restricted. It can be where we feel a bit blocked at times. Now, this full moon is conjunct Uranus. Now it's Taurus. Now Taurus is fixed and it can be quite stuck but also incredibly loyal. I have a feeling this full moon, conjunct Uranus for you, actually is something of an awakening event in your psyche. I suspect, Gemini, you're going to have some really big eureka, massive wake-up moment where you start to see things in a new light. Now, that can only be good, Gemini. And on that note, I want to thank you, Gemini, for joining me for your October astrology. And I'd like to say, if you've not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'd be super pleased if you could do that. And you can click on the subscribe button, which is just underneath this video. And also, if you would like to have a one-to-one with me for astrology or for life coaching, probably it'll be a combination of both anyway, because that seems to be the way I work, then my website address is just down here at the bottom of the video. And that's all I need to say, isn't it, Gemini? And you've got me caught for words. And okay, Gemini, listen, I really wish you a very blessed month of October. Enjoy Halloween. I think it's really going to be quite an interesting time for you. So till we meet again, Gemini, I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Bye.